is here at the Story Collider event for the first time. Very cool. Thank you for coming. So, we're just going to tell you a little bit about what we do here. We tell stories about science. We tell stories about what science means to us. And Brian's going to tell you what that means.
What that means to us here at the Story Collider is we want to hear about times in your life when science made a difference to you. And so what we're specifically not interested in are facts. Right? We don't want lectures about science. We don't care about how the actual science works. What we care about is how science affected different people's lives. And what you're going to hear tonight is how that happened, how science worked in the lives of 6 different people. And that's what we're about at the Story Collider.
So the theme tonight is family science, which sounds like the science of how families work and this, analysis of psychology and how family units function. This is not at all what we're doing. People instead are just going to tell stories about their family and the times science interacted with their family in some hopefully bizarre, hopefully humorous, entirely true way. And my own background is involved fairly heavily with science. It's all over my family. And I want to make clear, because I do know a lot of people in this audience who know what I do now, which is I do this, I get up in front of people, yeah, pretty much, I do what you see me doing. I get up in front of people and talk about science and what it means to their life and that kind of thing, everything Brian just said. And I want to make it absolutely clear that the fact that my dad is a geologist and my mom is a therapist has nothing to do with the fact that this is what I'm doing with my life right now. Absolutely nothing. But I think it's very cool, because that whole thing was just part of my life growing up, this idea that we talk about how mountains are formed, and then we talk about Jung and how dreams work, and it made me realize that I would run into people who didn't know who Jung was, and I got really confused. And then I realized I was just being a weird kid. And then eventually I realized I was being an entirely normal kid, in the sense that we all come from normal families, because whatever we grew up with is normal. So if my mom is reading tarot cards and my dad is okay with giving her crystals, even though he doesn't really buy that or anything, then that's normal. He is a geologist. He had a lot of quartz crystals lying around for, science. Actually, I don't think he did science with them. I think he collected those particular ones because he thought they were pretty. But it's a nice way to be. And the whole time I was growing up, this was a little bizarre, but my mom would tell me that, her dad's uncle's brother is also her dad's uncle, but something like that, some weird combination of things back in the past, was this scientist that I should know something about, and I always looked at her like, yeah, Mom, of course, our family's great, our family's wonderful. You know how parents just talk up their ancestors as if, this person came over on the Mayflower, therefore they're great. I heard this all the time from my friends growing up, because they were all cared so much about their genealogy. And my mom would be like, no, this, you really should be interested in Max Planck. He's actually an interesting person. And there's 2 people in the audience, but Max Planck invented quantum mechanics back in 1900, yeah.
Woo! Where would we be without it?
We would not be making telephone calls without it, which is weird. And you wouldn't have a job, and neither would I. So that's fun. But the point being that all of us have these incredibly normal, perfectly sane, perfectly what everyone grew up with families, except that they're all completely and bizarrely different, and that's what we're going to hear about tonight. 6 different stories of things like that. Shall we? All right, let's...